Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Mind the Moments Tuesday morning gathering, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. This is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino. I'm delighted to be here with world traveler Abe Dejene, instructor with Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, who happens to be in Zanzibar right now. So I think that's very exciting and unique. So happy to have you here this morning, Abe. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for having me and everyone else who's here. Glad to be in community with all of you. So, great way to start our day with practice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in a little bit, so we're so happy to have you back on. So grateful to have you and grateful to have our community here this morning and to see you all joining. We always have a mix of regulars and people that have been here week after week and also people that are new. So if anybody's new, we're really happy to have you here. We'll guide you through the whole process and glad you've joined us for some mindfulness this morning. So today we will start off a question for the group. Abe will pose that question and he'll just share a few thoughts with us and then go into at least a 12-minute guided practice, mixture of guidance and maybe a little bit of silent time. And after that, we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. So if you could go to the bottom of the screen, excuse me, and open up the chat. And when you open up that chat, at the bottom, you'll see a blue drop-down menu that will say hosts and panelists. You can change that to everyone. And then everyone can see all of your comments as you type them in. So Abe, I know you have a great question for us this morning. What question did you want to pose to the group?
Thank you, Suzanne. For the past few weeks, my own personal practice, but just also my moment-to-moment experience, I've been really playing with curiosity and bringing that into my experience to seeing how that will shift perspectives. So the question I have for the group, for the community is, when was the last time that you were curious about something? Give folks a moment to see what rises up to the surface for them.
Put that in the chat. You know, I have to say the first thing I can start, the first thing that comes to my mind is I was walking my dog around my neighborhood and there was a really unique bird song that was happening and I had never heard the bird song. So I was just looking everywhere trying to see if I could see what kind of bird made this beautiful sound. So it's wonderful when you notice these things, especially out in nature, how you can really take them to another level and try to see, what nature is bringing us. So curiosity can be a really amazing thing, and it can really take us out of our heads, which
No,
is a
absolutely.
real benefit.
It's, just being here in East Africa, and then sometimes I'll just sit by the beach and just watch the children, whether they're playing with seashells or the crabs coming out of the holes, and just how extremely curious about they are about every little thing. And these are things I've seen so many times. Sometimes I've taken it for granted, so I don't have the same sort of excitement around these things. But just watching those children often is such a reminder for me that if I brought curiosity into my moments, how differently I can experience life as a whole. So children are often a good reminder of how supportive curiosity can be.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I've got some good comments coming in here as well. Ian says many times every day, so that's impressive. With this practice, Julia mentions, I try to use curiosity instead of reactivity when my mind starts to wonder and judge, or when feelings of unease arise. That can be so useful. Every day I ask a million questions about anything and everything. Yeah. That can be good. Curious with my dog's behavior and wonder why he does what he does. Yeah.
And we probably could bring that same curiosity to our own uh, movement as well. It's the same way we're looking at our dogs and being curious about why they do what they do. We could also bring sort of turn that inwards to ourselves as we get curious about why we do what the things we do, not always necessarily in our best interest. So it's a good place to examine.
Yeah, most definitely. Javier says, excuse me. Thank God it happens every day. Most recently, I love a research building being built. Oh, yeah. It's interesting to see things being built and how intricate the process is. Letting go of judgment and being curious instead. Anne mentioned Sunday evening when my great nephew hung around after a family gathering. I was curious, but waited for him to begin the conversation and just listened.
And it definitely has a possibility to change our relationships, not just with the natural world or our jobs, but a lot of the important relationships we have can be enhanced tremendously as we bring curiosity into getting to know that person versus the ideas we may have of that person, which often can be limiting in how we relate to one another. So I appreciate how you brought that into a family member experience.
Yeah, definitely, especially with kids where we might just fill the void of no conversation, but just letting them say what's on their mind. You just really, like you said, you learn a lot about people. Yeah, Francis mentions always curious about water levels in local streams, especially with all the rain that we had recently. And Janice, I use curiosity a lot, most recently with why I was not wanting to move forward with a task I needed to do and trying to shift out judgment.
Yeah, we can even get really curious about the judging mind. Often we'll say curiosity could expand how we see things. So even if judgment arises, whether it's in practice or whatever we may be engaged in, like what is it to be curious about being judgmental? Like what does that do to that judgmental piece of our experience? So it's even if that does come up for you in your practice or in life, like, let's be curious about being judgmental. What's actually behind that? It's an
Mm.
interesting place to play.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Lots of great comments. Seems that curiosity and patience should go together. Yes, that's a very, very interesting comment. Colleen, my mother-in-law, has dementia. I ask her a lot of questions about her distant past, and it amazes me what stories she can recall. Seems to make her happy to share these stories. The mind is a very curious thing. Hmm. Loretta's mentioned the blink list today was damaged by not destroyed. Talking about the HOT method, humble, open, and transparent, and looking at how past events mold who we are, how it piques curiosity. Interesting. Yeah, and Ian's also mentioned judgment can come up with hypotheses one may come up with to explain why someone does something or why things in society are the way they are. Yeah, there's so many layers we can peel back with our lives. It's really an interesting inquiry, isn't it? Yeah, thank you for that
Absolutely.
question.
It's being intentional about curiosity, at least for me, for the past several weeks or a month or so, where I've been really making that a point of emphasis. I've gently started noticing some shifts, especially around difficult moments where in the past I might have maybe been engulfed by it. But now there's this possibility of to approach that moment or that person in a very different way, just because all of a sudden now I'm curious about it rather than being hunked down or that tightness and contraction that often comes with judgment. So I encourage you to play with it as I get into this meditation practice. As things are coming up for you, still there might be some judgment, but just notice even when you are in that judgment piece, can you still bring curiosity to the judgment as well? And bless you, Suzanne. Maybe bring curiosity to all the sneeze and what's here. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'll lead us through a practice as Suzanne mentioned. There'll be some light guidance and there'll be some silence as well to support you. Everything I offer is simply that an offering ultimately. Let the wisdom of your own body guide you through this practice. And then I'll give various anchors and various choices. So please feel free to shift and adjust in a way that is supportive for you.
That's good.
And with that said, I invite you to choose a posture that's accessible and relatively neutral. So whether you're sitting in a chair, lying down, or even standing up is a possibility, especially if you're feeling tired and lethargic. Often standing up can give us a little bit more energy as well. So whatever posture that you've chosen, allow yourself to settle into it. And this might mean lowering the gaze or closing the eyes completely, allowing the attention to turn inwards. So what's happening for you in the internal landscape? And as you gently arrive into this moment, regardless of how the day might have started, really allowing some grace here, some ease to come into this moment. So no need to rush into it. If the mind is still frantic, if the body feels restless, allow for all of that to be here. Often accepting how we are in this moment tends to soften things. And as you find the stillness in the body, often by bringing attention to physical sensations, it gives us a possibility to be grounded. You could tap in with the feet into the ground. You might notice sensations, feedback from the surface beneath you. Might be some warmth or coolness if you're wearing shoes or socks. You might also notice sensation in the sit bone pressed against the chair, the floor, the cushion. Being aware of any sensation that is found on the surface, but also those deeply embedded within this region. You might also explore what these sensations are, being really curious about what's here for you. Maybe it's pleasant or unpleasant. There may be strong sensations, sharp, dullness. And then when you're ready, I invite you to shift the attention to the placement of the hands, whether they're stacked on top of each other, on the body or the surface. Once again, being really curious about what sensations are available to you. There might be some pulsation, vibration, tingliness, warmth, coolness. And then when you're ready, the invitation is to gently move the attention upwards to the placement of the shoulders. Often for many of us, this is a place where there's maybe habitual tension or stress. And if that's true and your experience today. I invite you to take a deep inhale in to bring the shoulders up to the ear. And then on the exhale, to bring them back and down, to release them, creating space in the neck, the shoulder. And then when you're ready, once again, that gentle movement of attention upwards to the face, forehead, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the jawline. And see if there's a possibility, once again, to bring a sense of ease into this region. For many of us, the jawline, the eyes, the forehead, to be home, the tension. So if it's possible for you, bring in a sense of ease to this region of the body. When you're ready, I invite you to expand this awareness to encompass the entirety of the body, from the crown of the head all the way down to the feet. And as you gently scan this body, notice that there's other regions that capture your attention, or you're noticing any sensations that are available to you. And once again, exploring that with curiosity. Maybe it's a tightness in the lower back, or an ache in the knee, or maybe there's a sense of openness and expansion. Whatever is available to you, be really curious about it. And also noticing if there are any narratives or stories or judgments associated with these sensations. And if so, be aware of it. And then seeing if you could be curious once again about what that experience is like. Oh, there goes judgment. And if you're noticing that the mind is distracted, whether you're projecting towards the future or caught up stories of the past, just as soon as you become aware of it, that friendly invitation, once again, to return back to a sensation in the body. Allowing curiosity once again to infuse your practice. If you're noticing that the mind is still restless, often not in the present moment, you can also explore Where does the mind go when it doesn't want to be in the present moment? Whether it's the past or the future. Once again, allow the curiosity to guide you and exploring how the mind is operating right now. If staying in the present moment is difficult. And wherever you may be on your path now, the invitation is to narrow that field of attention to a single object, whether it's sensation in the body, the breath in a specific location, or even sound. So using any of those objects of attention as a way to anchor yourself back into this present moment and allowing yourself to rest here. And as we come towards the end of this practice, the invitation now is to gently bring small movements to extremities, maybe starting with the fingers and the toes. Allow for that movement to be gradually more pronounced and larger. You could begin to be intentional with the breath, bring more life force into the body. And then when you feel ready, if the eyes were closed, you could gently flicker them open once again. Look around the physical space you're in as a way to reorient and ground yourself into the physical space you're in. And then when you're ready, feeling no rush at all, once again, rejoin us back into community. And thank you for allowing me to lead that practice, Suzanne, and everyone else who's doing.
It was really lovely, Abe. Thank you so much. I really like how it's interesting to bring curiosity to the movement of the mind, moving into the past or into the future, and how maybe just being curious about bringing the curiosity back to the body, because we all know that the body is always in the present moment. So when we come back to the body, that will take us where we need to be, right? So I really like that guidance, that just reconnecting with the body can, ignite the curiosity that you need to come back into the present moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the one thing we have that's consistent in the present moment is the physical body, any sensation that may arise into it. So often when I notice the mind is just unwilling to settle for whatever reason in that practice or in that day, that repetition and that friendly repetition, because often in the past I've been critical of that invitation to come back to the body. So I think often it could be supportive to even the language we use when we ask the mind or the attention to come back to the body versus, oh, why am I doing this? Or why am I not being able to stay present versus, oh, like, let me come, dear friend, come back to the body. Let's sit here together. At least for me, really changes the dynamic.
Yeah. No, it does. It's a gentler way to bring ourselves back, right?
And you can expand that out into your life outside of the formal practice. How do I meet those moments, whether things are going well or things are challenging? How can curiosity actually change my relationship with it? Can it give me another answer? Can it give me another perspective? Can it soften how that moment is being experienced, especially when it's a challenging one? And if it's a pleasant one, it gives us an opportunity to really steep into it. Often, when it's a pleasant moment, it feels quite fleeting, but that curiosity tends to allow us to really steep into the moment as it's happening. So I appreciate how it can support both the pleasant and the unpleasant experiences of our lives.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Such really wonderful reminders of how, how we can lead our lives and how curiosity can be a game changer. It's interesting, and I feel like in our world, we're so used to conversations, even TV shows, we notice like everything's so fast moving, conversations are fast moving. But when you're talking with someone and someone pauses before they answer you, I really respect that. Like someone's really listening and thinking about how they want to answer you and being curious about what's the best way to have this conversation. So, yeah, a lot of people have
Yeah,
given a lot of great feedback on this practice.
no, that's such an important point. It really gives us the opportunity to change our relationships, those especially that we value the most. It's often, as you mentioned, when somebody pauses to reflect on what you just shared, to get curious about that before bringing their voice into it is really a tremendous sign of the presence that we give one another is tremendously a gift. I think that shouldn't be taken lightly because it's very easy just to go back and forth without necessarily stopping and actually absorbing what's being shared.
Yeah. Yeah. And the timeliness of this too. And when we talk about getting family together and how that can be challenging and how maybe just the way that we're curious about someone's opinion or the way someone's mentioned something can change the course of a conversation. Hmm. Someone's mentioned the book Quiet about the benefits of less talk and more introversion and in the current culture. Yeah, I'm curious about that. I'll have to look that up
Yeah.
because, interestingly enough, those of us that have been on any kind of day of retreat or a longer retreat, we know when we come back out of silence, we think, "Gosh, idle chatter just doesn't mean anything anymore, does it?"
Mhm.
Our words are really meaningful. So, thank you for bringing that in. Um, I'll take a look at that book called Quiet. Well,
Well, thank you
grateful
for
to
that
have you
feedback.
here, Abe, this morning. So glad that you were able to share this practice with us at just a perfect time.
Yeah, and I'll be back January 2nd. So we'll be a brand new year then. So in the meantime, just keep infusing this practice for whatever holiday you celebrate. And I look forward to seeing you, Suzanne, next year, as well as anyone else who will join us for this practice. And truly grateful to be here. So thank you all for being present for this.
So happy to have you here and happy to have our community here. So thank you for joining. We'll be back tomorrow morning. And, again, thank you to Abe, and we'll see you soon. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.